Imagine this for a second. You're a good man. You work hard. You pay your bills. You try to treat people with respect. And yet, every single day, you're told you're the problem. You're told your natural strength is toxic, your desire to protect is controlling, your logic is mansplaining, and your very existence as a masculine man is somehow an offense to the modern world. And then one day it finally clicks. You realize the game was never designed for you to win. The arguments, the drama, the endless emotional roller coasters, none of it was ever about facts or solutions. It was always about something else entirely. And once that truth hits you in the chest like a freight train, something incredible happens. You stop playing, you walk away. And that, my friends, is the moment everything changes. Let's stay with me until the very end because I'm going to show you exactly why millions of men have quietly made the same decision, why no amount of begging or shaming will ever bring them back, and why the people who spent decades pushing men out are now staring at the consequences in absolute horror. If you're new here or you've been riding with me for a while, do me a solid, smash that like button right now, share this video with every man you know who needs to hear this, and subscribe so you never miss another dose of unfiltered truth. And if you're serious about protecting everything you've worked for in this collapsing economy, go check out Angry's Crypto Academy. The full academy is linked in the description below. We teach you step by step how to buy, store, trade, and protect your wealth in the one place the system can't touch it. Click that link and start building real security today. Also, if these videos fire you up and keep you sharp, you can buy me a Red Bull through the link in the description. Every can keeps the rage fueled research coming, and I appreciate every single one of you who keeps the tank full. Let's get into it. For years, I watched good men destroy themselves trying to have rational conversations with people who were never interested in reason. I'm talking about the guy who comes home from a 12-hour shift, bone tired, wanting nothing more than peace. And within 10 minutes, he's in a full blown argument about something that happened 3 years ago that he doesn't even remember. He tries to use facts. He tries to stay calm at first. He brings receipts, timelines, text messages, whatever evidence he thinks will finally make her see the truth. And what happens? She cries. She yells. She brings up 12 other things he supposedly did wrong. She says he's being mean for pointing out basic reality. And by the end of it, he's the one apologizing. He's the one sleeping on the couch. He's the one wondering what the hell just happened while she feels energized, alive, buzzing from the emotional high of the fight. I lived it. Millions of us lived it. And then one day we asked ourselves a very dangerous question. What if I just stopped? What if I refused to step into the ring when someone is swinging with emotions instead of facts? What if I gave a calm, clear response one time and then I simply walked away and let the storm burn itself out? No yelling back, no defending myself against accusations from 2019, no trying to prove I'm not the monster she's decided I am in that moment. Just a simple, and I hear you, this is my position, I'm not discussing it further, and then silence. At first, it feels wrong. Your whole life, you've been told that a real man argues his point until the other person admits he's right. You've been told that walking away is avoiding responsibility. You've been told that if you don't engage, you're weak. But then something wild happens. The moment you stop feeding the drama starves. The moment you refuse to match her volume, the volume has nowhere to go. The moment you stop trying to reason with pure emotion, the emotion has no target to latch onto. And suddenly she's standing there screaming at a brick wall that doesn't scream back. It's like watching a toddler throw a tantrum in the grocery store, and the parent just keeps calmly pushing the cart. The kid ramps up, waiting for the big reaction, waiting for the embarrassment, waiting for the payoff. And when it never comes, the kid eventually runs out of steam and follows the parent because there's nothing else to do. That's exactly what happens when a grown man finally learns to respond to emotional chaos with masculine calm. The chaos loses its fuel. And let me be crystal clear here. Because I know how this sounds to some people. This is not about winning in the petty sense. This is not about being cold or cruel or dismissive. This is about refusing to participate in a game that was specifically designed to drain you dry. Because every time you engage in that cycle, every time you let yourself get pulled into the emotional whirlwind, you lose something. You lose time. You lose energy. You lose peace of mind. You lose testosterone from the chronic stress. You lose sleep. You lose years off your life. And for what? So she can get her emotional fix and then do the exact same thing next week? No. At some point, a man looks in the mirror and says, I'm done sacrificing my peace to feed someone else's chaos. And that moment, that quiet, private moment when he makes that decision, is the moment he starts walking away. Now, walking away doesn't always mean packing a bag and leaving the house, though sometimes it does. Sometimes walking away simply means emotionally detaching from the drama while you're standing in the same room. It means you hear the accusation, you hear the yelling, you hear the tears, and none of it hooks you anymore. You've seen the pattern so many times that it's predictable. You know exactly how the script goes. You know she's going to bring up that thing from last Christmas. You know she's going to say you never listen. You know she's going to threaten to leave or call her friends or post cryptic messages online. You've seen the movie before. And instead of hitting play again, you just, don't. You say your piece once, calmly, without anger, without defensiveness, and then you go lift weights or work on your business or call your brother or read a book or go for a walk. You remove your attention from the circus and place it back where it belongs, on you. And that single act, that refusal to dance, is the most powerful thing a man can do in that situation. Because here's what the red pill gurus and the pickup artists never quite explained clearly: women do not respect men who can be baited into emotional reactions. They might fear them. They might get the temporary rush they're looking for, but they do not respect them. Respect comes from the man who cannot be rattled. Respect comes from the man who can look at a category 5 emotional hurricane and respond with the steady calm of an ancient oak tree that is masculine frame, that is unshakable presence. And once a man discovers he has the ability to do that, something shifts permanently inside him. He starts to realize that 90% of the arguments he spent years suffering through were completely optional. They only existed because he agreed to participate. And once he stops agreeing, they cease to exist. I want you to think back to the last big fight you had in a relationship. Really think about it. Who started it? What was it supposedly about? And then be brutally honest. Did solving that fight actually fix anything long term? Or did it just reset the timer until the next explosion? For most of us, the answer is painful but obvious. The fight didn't fix anything because the fight itself was the point. The fight was the drug. The emotional intensity was the payoff. And you, my friend, were the dealer. So when men finally wake up and decide they're no longer in the business of supplying free emotional drugs, the entire dynamic collapses. And that collapse is happening right now on a massive scale. We're seeing it everywhere. Men are opting out of dating entirely. Marriage rates are in free fall. Birth rates in the West are crashing through the floor. Men are refusing to cohabitate. They're refusing to get legally entangled. They're refusing to play Captain Save a Princess when the ship is already on fire. And the louder society screams, where have all the good men gone? The quieter men become because they're busy building lives that don't require them to set themselves on fire to keep someone else warm. And here's where it gets really interesting. The same people who spent 20 years telling men to open up, to be vulnerable, to share their feelings, to dismantle the patriarchy are now panicking because men actually listened. Men opened up and shared exactly what they were experiencing. Men became vulnerable enough to admit that the current deal is garbage. Men looked at the legal system, the family courts, the social expectations, the economic reality, and said, yeah, no thanks. And now those same voices are screaming that men are emotionally unavailable or afraid of intimacy or addicted to porn or whatever the flavor of blame is this week. But men aren't afraid, men are awake. There's a massive difference between fear and refusal. A fearful man runs away and hides. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. An awake man looks at the burning building, decides it's not worth entering, and calmly walks in the opposite direction to go build something better. That's what millions of men are doing right now. They're not hiding, they're building, they're lifting, they're stacking money, they're traveling, they're starting businesses, they're forming brotherhoods, they're mastering skills, they're reclaiming the very masculinity that was labeled toxic and turning it into something unbreakable. And the best part, they're doing it in silence. No announcements, no manifestos, just quiet, relentless competence. So when you see articles with headlines like "The End of Men" or "Where Have All the Good Men Gone?" or hear talking heads on television wondering why young men are checking out, understand what's really happening. Those men didn't disappear. They just stopped making themselves available to a system that punished them for existing. They stopped volunteering to be the emotional punching bag, the walking ATM, the fix it guy for problems they didn't create. They looked at the contract being offered, marriage 2.0, dating in 2025, the whole package, and they said hard pass. And nothing is bringing them back. Not the crying TikToks from women in their 30s suddenly discovering that the strong, independent, boss babe lifestyle isn't all it was cracked up to be. Not the think pieces about how men need to step up and be providers again. Not the politicians promising to bring men back into society. None of it works because the trust is gone. The social contract is shredded. And once a man experiences true peace for the first time in his adult life, once he realizes how much energy he was wasting on endless drama, there is no force on earth that can drag him back into the cage. That's the part they don't understand yet. Peace is addictive. Real, deep, masculine peace. The kind you feel when your phone isn't blowing up with accusations, when your bank account isn't being drained by someone who contributes nothing, when your nervous system isn't constantly flooded with cortisol from the latest manufactured crisis. That peace is the most powerful drug on the planet. And once you've tasted it, you will move mountains to protect it. So, to every man watching this right now who's still caught in the cycle, still trying to fix her, still believing that if you just find the right words, she'll finally see reason, I need you to hear me. You're arguing with a tornado. You're trying to negotiate with a thunderstorm. You're attempting to use logic on something that was never designed to respond to logic in that moment. Stop, just stop. Give your calm, clear boundary one time, then disengage. Go invest that energy into yourself and watch how fast the storm loses interest when there's no one left to fight. And to everyone else, the ones who spent years telling men they weren't needed, that they were the problem, that the world would be better if men just got out of the way, congratulations. You won. Men are getting out of the way. They're walking away in droves. And now you get to live with the results. Now let's go deeper because what we're witnessing isn't just a few frustrated guys deciding to play video games in their mom's basement. What we're watching is the largest quiet revolution in modern history. Millions of men across every age group, every income bracket, every country in the West have looked at the deal on the table and simultaneously said no. Not with protests, not with violence, not with whining on social media, just a simple, calm, collective no followed by the sound of footsteps walking in the opposite direction. And the silence that follows is deafening. You see it in the numbers first. Marriage rates in the United States have been dropping for 50 years, but in the last decade, the fall has turned into a cliff dive. We're now at the lowest marriage rate ever recorded in this country. Not since they started keeping records in the 1800s. Think about that. Even during the Great Depression, even during two world wars, men were still lining up to get married at higher rates than they are today. Something fundamental has broken. And birth rates? Same story. Most Western countries are now so far below replacement level that demographers don't even pretend this is temporary anymore. They openly use words like civilizational collapse in their papers. Japan is already living the future we're heading toward. Entire towns being abandoned, schools closing by the hundreds, nursing homes overflowing while maternity wards sit empty and gather dust. And the Japanese men checked out decades ago. We're just catching up. But it's not just the big macro numbers, it's the day to day reality you can feel in the air. Go to any major city on a Friday night, look at the bars, the clubs, the high end restaurants that used to be packed with couples on dates. They're half empty now, or filled with groups of women wondering out loud where all the men are. Dating apps are collapsing under their own weight because the men who used to keep them profitable have deleted their profiles and never looked back. Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, they're all quietly panicking as their most valuable users, men with jobs, height, and ambition, vanish overnight. And the women left swiping on those apps, they're not matching with the top 20% of men anymore. They're matching with nobody because the top 20% figured out they don't need to settle for the modern deal either. Why lock yourself into a legal contract where you have a 50% chance of losing your children, your house, your savings, and half your future income when you can just enjoy your peace and date casually if you feel like it? The juice is no longer worth the squeeze. I want you to really let that sink in. The most desirable men, the ones women used to fight over, have looked at the current marketplace and decided the risk reward ratio is laughable. They're not angry, they're not bitter, they're just done. They've moved on to bigger things. Meanwhile, the average guy, the one who used to be told he just needed to work on himself and then some princess would finally appreciate him, has also woken up. He watched his dad get destroyed in divorce court. He watched his older brother pay alimony to a woman who cheated on him. He watched his best friend lose custody of his kids because he missed one child support payment during a pandemic layoff. And he said to himself, if that's what happens when you play by the rules and do everything right, why would I ever sign up for that? So he doesn't. He gets in shape. He stacks money. He travels with his boys. He builds a life so full that the idea of handing over half his peace to someone who brings chaos feels insane. And the women who spent the last 15 years telling men they didn't need them are now writing articles with titles like The Loneliest Generation and filming tearful videos asking where all the good men went. They went exactly where you told them to go. You said, we don't need men. They heard you. They believed you, and they adjusted accordingly. But here's the part that keeps me up at night laughing. They actually thought men would keep showing up anyway. They thought men would keep volunteering to be the villain in someone else's story, even after being told they're disposable. They thought the thirst would override self preservation forever. They were wrong. Masculine energy is not infinite. It is not an endless resource to be extracted whenever someone decides they want attention, money, or emotional validation. It has to be earned. It has to be respected. And when it's not, it withdraws. That's not a bug. That's a feature. Every empire in history collapsed when the men who built and maintained it decided it was no longer worth protecting. Rome didn't fall because of barbarian invasions alone. It fell because Roman men stopped caring whether Rome stood or fell. They stopped joining the legions. They stopped paying taxes. They stopped fathering children who would grow up to defend the borders. Sound familiar? We are watching the same pattern play out in real time. Men are not going to war for countries that hate them. Men are not building families with women who see them as utilities. Men are not sacrificing their health, their freedom, and their future for a society that celebrates their erasure. And the best part, there is no speech, no policy, no amount of shaming that can reverse this. You cannot negotiate with a man who has discovered peace. You cannot shame a man who has nothing left to lose. You cannot guilt a man who has already grieved the death of the future he was promised and made peace with a different path. I want you to picture something with me. Imagine a man in his 30s. Good job, nice apartment, works out 5 days a week, has a tight circle of brothers he would die for, travels 3 or 4 times a year, has money in crypto, money in index funds, money in gold, and zero debt, sleeps 8 hours a night, eats clean, reads every day, has hobbies that light him up, has complete control over his time and his attention. Now imagine trying to convince that man that he should give up half his net worth, half his future income, half his time with his future children, and 100% of his peace of mind to marry a woman who spent her 20s riding the carousel, collecting tattoos, and telling men on social media that she doesn't need them. Tell me with a straight face that you think he's going to say yes. He's not. He's going to laugh, finish his protein shake, and go meet his boys at the gym. That's it. That's the entire negotiation. And multiply that man by 10 million. That's where we are right now. The government knows it. That's why they're starting to panic about birth rates. That's why politicians in countries like South Korea and Hungary are literally offering cash bonuses for babies. They're offering tax breaks, free housing, extended maternity leave, everything short of begging on their knees. And it's not working because men aren't the ones who need convincing anymore. Women still think they hold all the cards. Men know the cards were always in their hands. They just stopped playing a rigged game. I predicted this years ago. I said the moment men discovered they could have peace, sex, friendship, travel, and financial freedom without ever signing a marriage contract or cohabitating, the entire system would begin to crack. And people called me crazy. They said men would never walk away from their biological imperative. They said men would always come running the moment women snapped their fingers. Those people didn't understand masculine nature. They thought men were simple creatures driven only by sex and validation. They never understood that peace is the ultimate masculine desire. Not peace as in the absence of war, but peace as in sovereignty over your own mind, body, and time. Once a man tastes that, everything else becomes negotiable. Sex, easy to get without commitment. Children, possible with surrogacy or co-parenting agreements that don't involve family court. Companionship, his brothers provide better loyalty than most modern relationships. Legacy, he can build businesses, mentor younger men, create art, write books, plant trees he'll never sit under. Everything women used to exclusively provide can now be obtained without sacrificing freedom. And the one thing only a good woman can still provide, genuine respect, emotional intimacy, and a true partnership, is so rare now that most men have decided it's not worth betting their entire life on the slim chance of finding it. So they walk. And the walking has only just begun. We're about to enter the stage where the consequences become impossible to ignore. We're about to watch entire industries collapse because they were built on the assumption that men would keep paying forever. Wedding industry, already shrinking. Divorce industry, still making bank, but the pipeline is drying up. Real estate, wait until you see what happens when millions of men decide they don't need a 4-bedroom house for a family that will never exist. Universities, already freaking out as male enrollment plummets. The military, recruitment is in crisis across the West. Every system that relied on male sacrifice is about to hit a wall at 90 miles an hour. And the most poetic part, the men causing this collapse aren't even doing it out of spite. They're not organizing, they're not protesting, they're just living their lives. They're the quietest revolutionaries in history. They woke up, rubbed their eyes, looked around, and said, "Wait, I don't have to do this." And then they simply stopped. That's the power of mass noncompliance. No leader, no headquarters, no funding, just millions of individual men making the same private decision at roughly the same time. It's unstoppable. It's beautiful. And it's only accelerating. So when you hear the next politician or talking head or crying influencer say, we need to bring men back, understand what they're really saying. They're saying, we need to find a way to put men back in harness. They're saying, we took it too far and now we're scared. They're saying, please come fix this for us, even though we spent decades telling you we didn't need you. And the answer from the men who have already walked away is a calm, unified, unbreakable silence. Because once you've felt the weight come off your shoulders, once you've breathed air that isn't poisoned with constant criticism and drama, once you've slept through the night without wondering what fresh chaos tomorrow will bring, there is no offer, no threat, no plea that can make it you put the chains back on. You're free. And freedom, once tasted, is forever. The next 10 years are going to be the most fascinating train wreck in slow motion that any of us will ever witness. And the craziest part is that almost nobody in the mainstream is willing to say out loud what is actually happening. They keep dancing around it with terms like loneliness epidemic, mental health crisis among young men, economic disengagement, and my personal favorite, failure to launch. They treat the symptoms while pretending the disease doesn't exist. The disease is simple. An entire civilization spent 3 generations telling its load bearing walls that they were the problem. And now the load bearing walls have walked off the job. Let me paint the picture for you year by year so you can see exactly where this is going. 2026 to 2027, the panic becomes official. Governments in the West quietly move fertility and male workforce participation from social issues to national security threats. Think tanks that used to write papers about climate change and diversity now publish 200-page reports with titles like The Male Deficit and Civilizational Resilience. The tone is no longer scolding, it's pleading. South Korea, already the canary in the coal mine, starts offering literal 6-figure cash bonuses for any woman who has 3 children before age 30. The program is mocked globally, then quietly copied by Italy, Hungary, Poland, and Japan. The results are the same everywhere. Almost no one takes the money because the men required to create those children are simply not available at any price. Universities, already bleeding male applicants, start rolling out male focused initiatives that would have been called sexist 5 years earlier. Free tuition for STEM majors if you're male, guaranteed on campus housing for men, mental health programs designed for masculine needs. Enrollment ticks up for 1 semester, then flatlines when the men who show up realize the campus culture is still openly hostile. Word spreads fast. The discounts are bait. The environment is still a trap. 2028, the wedding industry collapses. The average cost of a wedding in the United States quietly crosses $45,000, and almost overnight, the bottom falls out. Bridal magazines fold. Destination wedding resorts in Mexico and the Caribbean file. Chapter 11. David's Bridal goes bankrupt for the 3rd time in a decade, and this time stays dead. The phrase ring by spring becomes an ironic meme among Gen Z men. Jewelers start running desperate ads that say things like, she said yes, Gilbin, now what? Because even when a woman manages to extract a proposal, half the men back out before the deposit is due. Instagram accounts that used to post engagement photos pivot to self-partnering ceremonies and solo weddings. The photos are beautiful, the comments are brutal. It 2029, the real estate reckoning. Single women have spent 15 years being told to buy the house, the man will follow. Millions did exactly that. Now they own three-bedroom homes in suburbs designed for families, and the mortgage is eating 60% of their income because they bought at the absolute peak. Meanwhile, single men are living in one-bedroom apartments downtown, or better yet, in low-cost states, or in Southeast Asia, or in vans, paying a fraction of what women pay for housing and investing the difference. The first wave of 35-year-old women start trying to sell those houses to downsize. They discover there is no buyer pool. Young men don't want 2,500 square foot homes with granite countertops and a yard to mow. Young couples barely exist. Investors won't touch them because the school districts no longer matter when no one is having kids. Entire subdivisions in Texas, Florida, and North Carolina turn into ghost towns with for sale signs baking in the sun for years. 2030, the tax base begins to crack. The first Western country, most likely Sweden or Canada, openly admits that the pension system is mathematically doomed because there aren't enough working age men paying in to support the retirees cashing out. Politicians float the idea of a bachelor tax on unmarried men over 30. The proposal is leaked, the internet explodes, and within 72 hours, every single man who was even thinking about marriage decides the question has been answered for him. The proposal is shelved for further study, but the damage is done. Male labor participation drops another 3% overnight. 2031, the military crisis goes public. The US military misses recruitment goals by 40%. The Navy starts offering $100,000 signing bonuses and still can't fill billets on submarines. The Army lowers the standards so far that they quietly stop requiring a high school diploma. The propaganda shifts from be all you can be to literal begging. Commercials that show sad mothers saying, I just want my son to have a purpose. Recruitment continues to plummet. The Pentagon classifies the data, but whistleblowers leak it anyway. The phrase national security emergency starts appearing in leaked memos. 2032. The dating app graveyard. Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge are all acquired at fire sale prices by a private equity firm that immediately lays off 80% of the staff. The apps are merged into one zombie platform that is 92% male and 8% female, and the women still complain there are no good men. The stock price of Match Group, once a Wall Street darling, is now lower than it was in 2012, adjusted for inflation. The CEO goes on CNBC and blames Lausch porn addiction and Lausch video games. The host nods solemnly. The viewers change the channel. 2033. The Where Are the Men? Documentary boom. Netflix releases 4 separate documentaries in 1 year asking the same question. They all interview the same 6 women in Brooklyn and Los Angeles who just can't figure out why men stopped approaching. Not one of the documentaries interviews a single man who walked away. The comment sections become legendary battlegrounds. The top comment on every trailer is the same. They're at the gym, making money, and enjoying peace. You're welcome. 2034. The fertility industry becomes the new growth stock. Sperm banks run out of high-quality donors. The price of a single vial from a tall, healthy, educated donor crosses $15,000. Women start crowdfunding their IVF cycles on GoFundMe with captions like, help me become a single mother by choice. The campaigns raise $400 and get roasted in the comments. Clinics in Denmark and Spain become the new Dubai. Plane loads of 38-year-old American women fly over for one last shot. The success rate for women over 37 is still under 7%. The TikTok tears become a genre of their own. 2035, the government tries the nuclear option. A major Western country, my money is on the UK or Canada, announces a family restoration act that includes the following provisions: minus tax credits of $20,000 per child, dash free daycare from 6 weeks old, 6 months paid paternity leave, mandatory, dash subsidized housing for married couples under 40, criminal penalties for serial dating apps that discourage commitment. The act passes with bipartisan support because both sides are terrified of the demographic collapse. The day it goes into effect, male dating app deletions spike 800%. Passport applications from men aged 25 to 40 hit all time highs. Countries like Thailand, Colombia, and the Philippines quietly roll out the red carpet for single Western men with remote jobs. The brain drain becomes impossible to hide. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud: every single one of these measures makes the problem worse, not better. Every carrot offered to lure men back into the system is proof that the system knows it's screwed up. Every stick waved to force men back in reminds them why they left in the first place. You cannot shame, bribe, or threaten a man into sacrificing his life for a society that spent his entire childhood telling him he's the problem. The more desperate the incentives become, the more men realize how much power they actually have. And power, once recognized, is never surrendered again. We're watching the death of an old order in real time. The old order said men must provide, protect, and shut up about it. Women get to choose, change their minds, and be celebrated no matter what. The state and the culture will always side with women, so men better stay in line. That order is dead. It died the moment the first million men looked at each other across the internet and realized they weren't crazy for wanting peace. It died the moment the first man deleted the dating apps, canceled the therapy sessions designed to make him less toxic, and started lifting 6 days a week instead. It died the moment men stopped arguing and started building. And nothing, no law, no speech, no crying influencer, no government program is bringing it back. Because here's the final red pill that most people still can't swallow: men don't need the system. The system needs men, always has, always will. Men produce, invent, maintain, defend, and repair 95% of everything that keeps civilization running. Women consume, nurture, and educate, all vitally important roles, but roles that depend on the structure men create and maintain. When men withdraw their labor, their attention, their commitment, their protection, the whole thing starts to sway like a skyscraper in an earthquake. And the earthquake has already started. So if you're a man watching this in 2025 and you're still trying to figure out what to do, let me make it simple for you. Step one: stop arguing with crazy. Stop trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed. Stop volunteering for jobs that hate you. Step two: build an unbreakable body, an unbreakable bank account, and an unbreakable brotherhood. Those three things will carry you through anything. Step three: protect your peace like it's the last resource on earth, because for you, it is. Step four: let the world burn if it has to. Your job is no longer to save a civilization that doesn't want to be saved. Your job is to become the kind of man your grandfather would have respected, the kind of man your future son would be proud to call father, whether that son ever exists or not. And if you're a woman watching this and you're angry, good, get angry. Then ask yourself an honest question. If every good man you know decided tomorrow that the current deal isn't worth it, what exactly would you offer to make it worth his while? Not what you think you deserve, not what you are told you're entitled to. What would you actually bring to the table that would make a high value man risk his peace, his wealth, and his freedom? Be honest. The answer is probably a lot less than you think. And that's why men are walking. That's why they're not coming back. And that's why the next decade is going to be the most glorious chaos most of us will ever live through. We're now entering the part most men have been waiting for their entire lives, even if they didn't know it yet. The blueprint. Not theory, not motivation, not another rant about how broken everything is. The actual step by step construction manual for building a life so bulletproof, so rich, so calm, and so free that the collapsing world outside your door feels like someone else's movie. This is how you become the man who looks at the chaos of 2030, 2035, 2040 and beyond, shrugs, cracks a Red Bull, and keeps stacking wins while everyone else is screaming about the end of civilization. Let's build it layer by layer. One, your body, the foundation that nothing else works without. Your body is your first and last piece of real estate. Everything else, money, women, status, freedom, sits on top of it. If it cracks, the whole structure collapses. You do not negotiate with your physique in 2025 and beyond. You dominate it. 6 days a week in the gym. No excuses, no listening to your body when it wants to skip leg day. Your body lies. Your discipline tells the truth. And the program is simple and brutal. Compound lifts only. Squat, deadlift, bench, overhead press, weighted pull ups, weighted dips, progressive overload every single session. Add weight or reps every time you touch the bar. 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight every day without exception. Sleep 8 hours minimum. Blackout curtains, magnesium, no phone in the bedroom. Walk 10,000 steps a day outside. Sun on your skin, testosterone in your veins. Within 12 months, you will look like a different species. Within 24 months, you will move like a predator. Women will notice before you open your mouth. Men will step aside when you walk into a room. And most importantly, you will feel the kind of deep animal confidence that no amount of money or status can fake. You are not training to look good on a beach. You are training to become a physical monument to the fact that you refused to let the world soften you. Haunted layer 2, your money, the silent weapon that buys freedom. The average man is one layoff, one divorce, one medical emergency away from financial ruin. We are ending that today. Your money must do 3 things. 1, grow faster than inflation destroys it. Second, be impossible for courts, ex-wives, or governments to seize. Third, generate cash flow while you sleep, lift, travel, or do whatever the hell you want. The stack looks like this. Emergency fund, 12 months of bare bones living expenses in cold hard cash or stable coins. Not in a bank where they can freeze it, not in stocks they can margin call. Liquid, boring, untouchable. Income streams. Minimum 3, a high paying remote job or business, tech, trades, sales, consulting, whatever you're good at, a side hustle that scales, e commerce, content, coaching, faceless YouTube channels, and passive crypto income at staking, lending, yield farming on chains the government still doesn't understand, minus hard assets, physical gold and silver in your possession or in private vaults overseas. Bitcoin self-custodied on a hardware wallet with a multi-sig setup and a dead man switch. Real estate only if it's cash flowing, commercial property in a landlord-friendly state or country. Never a personal residence you can be forced to sell in a divorce. Location arbitrage. Live in a place where your dollars stretch the furthest and the laws protect men the most. Medellin, Belgrade, Chiang Mai, Dubai, Buenos Aires, Asuncion, wherever your income is in the global 1%. But your rent is $800 a month, and the government doesn't care who you date or what you say online. You are not trying to get rich for Instagram. You are building a large sense on a war chest that lets you tell any boss, any woman, any government official to go straight to hell without raising your voice. A layer three, your brotherhood, the only safety net that actually works. Your friends from high school are probably married with kids, fat, broke, and miserable. That network is dead. You need a new one. Find 5 to 10 men who are on the same path. Men who lift, men who stack, men who refuse to apologize for existing. Meet in person once a week minimum. Lift together, eat together, shoot together, travel together, hold each other accountable without the soft emotional language women use. These are the men who will store your gold if you have to leave the country overnight. These are the men who will watch your back in a bar in Colombia when things go sideways. These are the men who will fly across the world for your wedding if you ever decide to have one, or for your mother's funeral if you don't. A lone wolf dies, a pack thrives. Build the pack. 4. Your location independence, the ultimate trump card. Never again be trapped in a jurisdiction that hates you. You want at least 3 passports or residency permits within 5 years. One from a strong Western country, so you're not stateless. One from a low tax playground, Paraguay, Panama, UAE. And one from a place nobody can find you if everything hits the fan. Learn conversational Spanish or Thai or Serbian, not to impress anyone, just enough to order food, book a taxi, and talk your way out of trouble. Keep your center of life portable. All digital income, no physical inventory, no employees you're responsible for, no pets you can't put on a plane, no leases longer than 12 months. When the UK passes its Family Restoration Act 2.0 and starts garnishing wages of single men, you're already gone. When Canada freezes bank accounts of people who donated $20 to the wrong protest, your money is already in Singapore and Dubai. When the US tries to tax worldwide income again, you're sipping coffee in a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty. Freedom isn't a feeling, it's a set of documents, accounts, and relationships that let you disappear and restart anywhere on earth within 48 hours. Layer 5, your mind, the final boss. All of the above is useless if your head is still wired for the plantation. You must kill the old programming dead. Every time you feel guilt for putting yourself first, you catch it and crush it. Every time you feel the urge to fix a woman's emotions, you let her drown in them. Every time society calls you selfish for refusing to marry a single mother or date a feminist, you smile and keep walking. Should you meditate 10 minutes every morning, not for inner peace, but for inner violence? The ability to stay calm while the world burns, the ability to watch a woman cry and not feel obligated to hand her your life jacket. You read the classics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Miyamoto Musashi, Rolf Dobelli, Robert Greene, Bronze Age pervert, not for quotes to post online, to rewire your operating system from slave to sovereign. You stop watching porn that scrambles your dopamine and makes real women seem boring. You stop doom scrolling news that exists only to keep you scared and compliant. You stop arguing on the internet with people who hate you. Your attention is your most valuable asset. You guard it like a dragon guards gold. 6, your purpose. The thing that outlives you. A man without a mission is a man waiting to die. Your purpose is no longer make her happy or provide for a family that might hate you later. Your purpose is bigger than any one woman, any one government, any one lifetime. Some men build companies that employ hundreds. Some men mentor younger men and become the father they never had. Some men write books that wake up millions. Some men quietly stack wealth and become the anonymous benefactor who funds the next generation's escape pods. Find the thing that makes you forget to eat. Chase it like a wolf chases a deer. Let it consume you. When you have purpose, women become a side quest, not the final boss. When you have purpose, peace isn't the absence of chaos, it's the eye of the storm you carry with you everywhere. Had the complete man in 2030. Picture him. He wakes up at 5:30 a.m. in a penthouse in Belgrade or a beachfront condo in Playa del Carmen. He trains fasted. He cold plunges. He eats ribeye and eggs. He checks his portfolio. Bitcoin at $500,000. Ethereum at $30,000. His staking rewards paid out another $3,800 while he slept. He hops on a call with his team in 3 continents, closes a 6-figure deal before lunch, then disappears to a jujitsu gym where he rolls with men half his age and taps them all. He has dinner with his brothers on a rooftop. They speak in 5 languages. They laugh about the latest crying TikTok from New York. They plan a hunting trip to South Africa next month. He has women who adore him in 4 countries. None of them live with him. None of them have access to his phone, his wallet, or his future. They compete to see who gets to fly in next weekend. He hasn't spoken to a hostile ex, a family court judge, or a human resources parasite in half a decade. His passport collection is thicker than most people's wallets. He sleeps like a lion, deep, calm, ready to kill if necessary, but unbothered by the jackals howling outside the pride. That man is not a fantasy. That man is the logical endpoint of every decision you start making today. And the best part, you don't need permission. You don't need a woman's approval. You don't need society's blessing. You don't need to wait for the perfect time. You start right now exactly where you are with whatever you have. 1 rep, $1, one boundary, one brother, one flight. Every single day you choose yourself over the plantation. You move closer to that man. Every single day you choose comfort over growth. You move further away. The clock is ticking. The world is burning. The old paths are closed. But a new path just opened up, and it's wide enough for every man willing to walk it. Take the first step. I want to hear from you right now. In the comments, tell me one thing you're committing to today that moves you closer to the man I just described. One gym session, one cold email, one dating app deleted, one flight booked. Whatever it is, declare it publicly. The men in these comments will hold you to it. We still have thousands of words left. How to vet women if you ever decide you want one. How to structure prenups that actually work. How to raise sons in a world that hates them. How to disappear completely if you ever need to. All of it. But for now, lock in. Like this video if you're done playing small. Subscribe if you're ready to become unstoppable. Share this with every man who still thinks he has to suffer to be worthy. All roads lead to MWA, men walking away. Cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.